Ever marveled at the dynamic elements on websites that make your browsing experience more engaging? Well, you're not alone. These interactive elements are a crucial part of what makes the web so fascinating. They transform static pages into lively platforms for exploration and interaction, bringing the digital world to life one click, hover, or swipe at a time. But what's powering these captivating features? What's the wizard behind the curtain orchestrating this digital ballet? The answer is JavaScript. This versatile programming language is the lifeblood of interactive web design, fueling the dynamic elements that make websites more than just digital documents. JavaScript plays a crucial role in web development. It's the language that allows web browsers to interact with HTML and CSS, the building blocks of web pages. With JavaScript, developers can manipulate these elements, changing their properties or behaviors based on user input. This interaction is what allows you to click a button and see a new image, fill out a form and receive instant feedback, or watch as a web page updates in real time. But JavaScript's capabilities extend beyond just the browser. It's also used to build complex web applications, create server-side functionality, and even develop mobile apps. Its versatility and wide range of applications have made JavaScript one of the most popular programming languages in the world today. But don't let its power intimidate you. JavaScript is also known for its approachability. It's a language that welcomes beginners, offering them a gentle introduction to the world of programming. With a host of resources available, from the comprehensive guides on Mozilla Developer Network to interactive tutorials on Codecademy and W3 Schools, learning JavaScript is more accessible than ever. So the secret sauce that makes those web pages extra tasty is none other than JavaScript. Imagine having a box where you can store anything. In JavaScript, we call this a variable. This is a fundamental concept in programming. A variable is basically a container for storing data values. It's like a label for a piece of data that can be used in your code. Variables in JavaScript are dynamic, meaning they can hold values of any data type, and their values can be changed throughout the course of your program. They're like the chameleons of the programming world, adapting to whatever data they're holding at the moment. Declaring a variable in JavaScript is pretty straightforward. You just need to use the keyword var, followed by the name you want to give your variable. Here's an example. var my variable. Boom! You've just created a variable. Now this variable isn't much use until we give it a value. To assign a value to the variable, we use the equals sign. For example, var my variable equals sign, hello world. Now my variable holds the string hello world. There are also other ways to declare variables in JavaScript, such as using let and const. These keywords were introduced in the ECMAScript 6 version of JavaScript, and they come with their own set of rules. But don't worry, we'll dive deeper into these in another video. In JavaScript, variables can hold different types of data. They can hold simple, primitive data types like numbers, strings, and booleans, as well as more complex data types like objects and arrays. This flexibility is one of the things that makes JavaScript such a versatile language. It allows you to write code that's clean, efficient, and easy to understand. Remember, the key to using variables effectively is to give them meaningful names. This way, when you or someone else reads your code, it's clear what each variable is used for. Much like the boxes in your storage room, variables in JavaScript hold the stuff you need, data. And understanding how to work with variables is a fundamental step in mastering JavaScript. So keep practicing, and before you know it, you'll be manipulating variables like a pro. Not all data is created equal. JavaScript understands this, and that's why we have data types. Let's talk about JavaScript data types. They are the building blocks of every JavaScript program, defining the nature of data that can be stored and manipulated. There are two categories: primitive and non-primitive. Primitive data types include undefined, null, boolean, string, number, and symbol. They represent the simplest pieces of data and cannot be broken into smaller units. Undefined and null are somewhat special. Undefined means a variable has been declared but has not been assigned a value. Null, on the other hand, is an assignment value that means no value or no object. Boolean represents two values, true or false. Strings are sequences of characters. Numbers can be written with or without decimals. Symbol is a unique and immutable data type introduced in ES6, useful as an identifier for object properties. Non-primitive data types are objects and arrays. Objects are collections of properties, and arrays are special types of objects used for storing multiple values in a single variable. These different data types are crucial for JavaScript's ability to handle a wide variety of tasks, from simple mathematical operations to complex interactions with web pages and servers. Just as you wouldn't put a goldfish in a paper bag, JavaScript data types ensure data is stored correctly. Functions in JavaScript are like your personal assistants. They handle specific tasks so you don't have to. Picture this. You're a high-powered executive with a lot on your plate. To manage your workload, you delegate tasks to your personal assistant. In the world of JavaScript, functions play the role of that personal assistant. They execute specific tasks based on the instructions given to them, taking a heavy load off your shoulders. Functions help to structure and organize JavaScript code. Think of them as the neat little compartments in your suitcase. Instead of throwing everything in haphazardly, you organize your belongings into these compartments. This way, you know exactly where to find your socks or your toothbrush. Similarly, functions compartmentalize your code, making it easier to manage, debug, and reuse. But what does a function actually look like in JavaScript? Well, it starts with the keyword function, followed by the name you've given it. Then, inside parentheses, you list any parameters it might need to perform its task. Finally, within curly braces, you write the instructions, or the code block. This is the task that your function will perform whenever it's called upon. Functions can be used for all kinds of tasks. They can calculate values, manipulate data, or even trigger events. For instance, you could create a function to calculate the area of a rectangle. By entering the length and width as parameters, your function could quickly calculate and return the area for you. You could use this function anytime you need to calculate a rectangle's area, without having to write the same code over and over again. So, if you're feeling overwhelmed by the prospect of writing complex JavaScript code, just remember, functions are here to help. They're like your loyal butlers, always ready to perform tasks at your command. They'll help keep your code tidy, efficient, and manageable. Think of functions as your loyal butlers, always ready to perform tasks at your command. Control structures are JavaScript's way of making decisions. They are the unsung heroes that give your code the ability to adapt and react to different situations. They govern the flow of code execution, deciding which blocks of code to run, when to run them, and under what conditions. Think of control structures as the directors of your script, guiding the action on the stage of your program. They are critical for creating dynamic and interactive web content, as they allow your code to respond intelligently to user input and other events. So, what are the types of control structures in JavaScript? Well, we can broadly categorize them into 3 types: conditional statements, looping statements, and exception handling statements. First off, conditional statements. These are your if, else, and switch statements. They allow your code to make decisions based on certain conditions. For instance, an if statement checks if a condition is true and executes a block of code if it is. An else statement runs a different block of code if the condition is false. And a switch statement allows your code to choose from several options, executing the block of code corresponding to the first matching case it encounters. Next up, looping statements. These include for, while, and do-while loops. They enable your code to perform a task repeatedly until a certain condition is met. For example, a for loop repeats a block of code a specified number of times, while a while loop continues as long as its condition remains true. Finally, we have exception handling statements. These are your try, catch, and finally statements. They help your code to gracefully handle errors and exceptions, allowing it to recover and continue executing the rest of your program instead of crashing. In conclusion, control structures are an essential part of JavaScript. They add logic to your code, allowing it to behave differently under different circumstances and making it more flexible and powerful. Control structures in JavaScript are like the traffic signals of your code, directing the flow of execution. We've taken a whirlwind tour of JavaScript, from variables to control structures. We've delved into the heart of this versatile language, unearthing its potential to breathe life and interactivity into web pages. We've explored variables, the fundamental building blocks that hold and manipulate information. We've deciphered data types, understanding how JavaScript categorizes information for efficient processing. We've unpacked functions, the reusable pieces of code that perform specific tasks, making our code more efficient and manageable. And we've navigated the maze of control structures which guide the flow of our code, making decisions and looping through tasks. These are the key concepts that form the foundation of JavaScript and are instrumental in creating dynamic web content. But remember, this is just the beginning. The world of JavaScript is vast and ever-evolving. Remember, mastering JavaScript is a journey, but today you've taken the first big step. Keep exploring, keep learning, and soon you'll be creating interactive web magic of your own.